Thank you. Good afternoon. Welcome to the Perris Union High School District Board meeting of October 1st, 2020. The board will be respecting recent orders from the Governor of California, the Health Officer of the County of Riverside, and guidelines for the Center of Disease Control and control related to maintaining public health and safety at this time. Consistent with these orders and guidelines, the meeting will be held online only, and there will be no physical meeting location open to the public. The board encourages members of the public to join the meeting electronically. So I'm going to call to order. At this time, I'm going to call the meeting to order at 4:34 p.m. I'm going to ask for a roll call for a quorum, to determine a quorum. So we'll start from the top of the list. Trustee Arau.
Present, Mr. Stafford.
Okay, thank you. Trustee Garcia.
Here.
Trustee Freeman.
Here, sir.
Trustee Nellison.
Here.
And myself, Trustee Stafford, here. We have established a quorum. All items requiring a vote will be an oral vote for this meeting, followed up with an electronic vote. So next we will go to item 3.1, the Pledge of Allegiance. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Okay. Ready? Begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. We will now go to item 4.1. is revision and adoption ordering of agenda for October 1st, 2020. Do I have a motion to adopt the agenda?
I make the motion. The agenda.
Second.
Oh, Trustee Garcia, and the second was Trustee Freeman, or Dr. Freeman. Okay. We'll go for an oral vote. Trustee Arau.
Aye.
Trustee Garcia.
Aye.
Trustee Freeman.
Aye.
Trustee Nellison.
Aye.
And myself, Trustee Stafford. Aye. You can vote electronically. There we go. Item 4.1 passes 5-0. Our next item is item 5.1, invitation to address the Board of Trustees on non-agendized items. Are there any public comments?
Mr. Stafford, we have one public comment on a non-agendized item. Mr. Williams will read that into record.
Okay.
There are two public comments.
Two?
Yeah. The first one is from Adriana Ruiz. Good evening. My question is regarding if schools are planning to reopen soon. When? If so, will parents be given an option to continue to keep our children in distance learning for the rest of the year? Thank you. The next comment is from Laura Salcido. How would the district and individual schools process kids that show symptoms of the virus during school hours? If parents already sent out their choice of full, virtual, or hybrid, can they change their choice? Would they be assigned specific teachers, or would they keep all the classes as is if they happen to go back to school? That ends the comments on non-agendized.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Williams. We were well below the 3 minutes to address the board, so no issue there. So now we'll go to item 6.1, general functions. This is a plan to return to athletic conditioning and workouts. Do I have a motion to approve the plan to return to athletic conditioning and workouts?
I'll second.
Authorize to enter phase 1. I will subsequent phase with subsequent phases upon approval of Riverside County Health Department. I'm sorry, gentlemen, you'll have to give me that. Who was first on that motion?
Dr. Rouse, and then I second it.
Dr. Rouse. Trustee Garcia. Okay, we'll do an oral.
Tony,
we're
we,
gonna-
we have public comments on an agendized item, so Mr. Williams will read those into record.
Okay.
Following that, we have a presentation of the information also.
Okay, and before we make the final vote, if there's any comments, it's not here scripted. I want to make sure each person has their trustee has a chance to make their public comments if they would like.
Yes.
Okay. Okay, so let's go with the presentation.
No,
the
Mr. He's going to read the public comments in first.
Okay, go ahead.
Do we want to read in? Do we have the card for this one?
I do. Yes, I do. Individual speakers shall allow 3 minutes to address the board on each agenda or non-agenda item. The board shall limit the total time for public comment input on each item to 20 minutes with board consent. The president may increase or decrease the time allowed for public presentation, depending on the topic and the number of persons wishing to be heard. The president may take a poll of speakers for or against a particular issue and may ask that the additional persons speak only if they have something new to add. Okay, Mr. Williams, you can go ahead.
All right, stand by. I'm scrolling. Okay. This first comment is from Aaron Harrison, PVHS parent. I ask you to vote yes to let the students at Paloma Valley High School to begin workouts with their fellow students. These kids have been through enough and they need the outdoors and they need their friends. The obesity and depression is taking over for many of these kids. If you don't act now, we will lose a generation of kids and they will lose their dreams. The county health department has allowed community teams to practice with equipment together for 3 weeks now. Again, I urge you to vote yes tonight to start a path to normalcy for your children. The next comment is from Christina Moore, PVHS parent. I am writing to ask you to please consider allowing the high school kids to go back to school to practice sports. In the last month or two, many sports in the communities have started practicing again. My son is practicing volleyball indoors 2 to 3 times a week. Parks are full of soccer and baseball practices. All of them are using special protocol to keep our kids safe. They sanitize upon entering, wear masks when able, limit their practicing the skills with less contact, and many take temperatures beforehand. This can be done safely with a small bit of planning. These kids have been through a lot and I can see it starting to affect many of them. Kids who love school normally are hating school and are in tears. They need to get back to both interaction with others and physical activity. Please, when you vote or meet again on this matter, please consider allowing it in some capacity. Anything small is a step in the right direction for these kids. Thank you for your consideration. The next comment is from Tisha Schubert. School board members and district leadership, as you are making very important decisions regarding the future of our kids, I would like to take a moment and remind you how important these decisions are. When considering the reopening of schools, sports, and clubs, you need to take into account what negative effects the current situation is having on high school students, both mentally and physically. Online learning and asynchronous work is taking a huge toll on students. The number of hours spent in front of a screen is unacceptable, yet these students have no choice but to do it if they want to be successful in their classes, aka maintaining their high GPAs. Furthermore, student athletes want their sports back. We know that other districts are successfully bringing them back, and other states have never stopped doing it. We, student athletes and parents, will sign the waivers necessary for our students to have sports back that are so vital to their mental and physical well-being. We know that sports, clubs, and extracurricular activities keep many students interested in high school. It is the best part of high school. I plead with you to bring them back. The next comment is from Kelly Perez. I am sending this message with high hopes that you, the board, will make the right decision and let our kids back in school, and to allow them to begin conditioning for the upcoming sports season. My son is a senior and varsity baseball player at Heritage. This is supposed to be his year, along with all of his fellow graduating classmates. These kids need to be back on campus, in the classroom, with real life in-person teaching. And yes, they need their social lives back. At the very least, you could approve a plan to get the athletes on campus to begin preparing for a sport they love, for a sport they have poured their hearts and souls into throughout the years so they could play at the high school level and beyond. My son made varsity last season, but COVID stole that away. Do not let my child and every other child lose one more day of something that means so much to them because of the virus and unnecessary damaging fear it has caused. Our kids deserve to have the best 4 years, don't you agree? Don't you want to bring them back joy, happiness, and meaning? Sitting at home, staring at a screen all day with no other outlet to look forward to, such as sports, is not joy or happiness. It is streamlined to depression, anxiety, and a myriad of other health issues. I am begging you to make the difficult decision to do right by our children. Our kids are mature enough to handle social distancing, mask wearing when needed, and wiping down and sanitizing workout equipment. My son has been going to a private gym with me for the last several months, and he has done his part to thoroughly clean all equipment before other gym members use it. It's not that hard. Also, what does cleaning the restrooms have to do with anything? If they can use a public restroom and properly wash their hands outside of school, why wouldn't they be capable of doing this at school? We're not talking about kindergartners here. It seems as though some board members are reaching for reasons to not allow the plan to pass, when they should be advocating for the students' best interests. The students are ready, the parents are ready, the board needs to hear us. The next comment is from Mark Nolan. There is no good reason to not let these kids start to participate in workouts at their school. I never graduated from college, but my lessons I learned about life were from my coaches and the efforts I gave at practices and in games. I have been very successful in business and raising my kids because of the competitive nature in sports, working as a teammate, learning to succeed, and the preparation to do your best. All of this came from high school sports and the mentorship I received from my coaches. Without high school sports, me nor my father would have been as successful. My father lived with his football coach for 2 years. My father became a millionaire in part because of the lessons in life he learned from participating in football, baseball, and basketball. My father recently told me that he could not imagine sports being taken away from him. All over the nation, sports are being played and practiced. Please give these kids back practicing in the sports they love. Every day they are not practicing sport does destroy lives. The only reason not to allow athletes in school districts not to participate in their athletic activities is for the school board to show their powerful and political ignorance. Next comment is from Jason Miller, PSEA president. PSEA supports the return of sports for students for conditioning, practice, and play, adhering to the less stringent guidelines of the county, state, and federal levels. The bottom line is that we want kids back in classrooms and in their sports when it's safe to do so. To some extent, it is safe to do some of that now. We recognize that the board did not kill a motion for returning of sports at the last board meeting, but simply tabled it for more information. On a side note and an unrelated matter, let's talk about Dr. Tomasian. I would be remiss to not letting the board know of the great things she has done for the staff at Paloma Valley. Dr. Tomasian has been visiting employees' houses and with signs for them that say something like, "Awesome educators live here." That is paraphrased. She even drove out to Orange County for this. Who does that? Dr. Tomasian does that. What a great example of lifting other people up. Thank you, Dr. Tomasian. Thank you, school board, for this time to speak. The next comment is from Geneva Fround. I am asking PUHSD to treat our children fairly, plain and simple. Give them the same school privileges that every other school district around us is giving to their children. You are completely alienating the kids in your district, treating them differently than other districts treat their kids. I am pleading with you to consider our children's mental and physical well-being. We are simply asking that you allow them to use the high school's outside facilities to condition. We are not asking for them to use weight rooms or anything else, even though gyms in the area are officially open. Give kids a choice. If they do not want to attend, fine. But as a mom that has 2 student athletes in sports, I've gone from seeing my kids strive to be competitive to win to losing their ambition and drive to succeed. I am a heartbroken parent that wants the best for my kids, and that is to see them out around others that drive them to succeed and push the limits to do better. The next comment is from Blake Hauser. I'm a senior and play varsity football at Paloma Valley High School. I have played football since I was 5 years old, and that is what I love to do. I had the opportunity to start at quarterback last year, and at the end of the year wasn't happy with how I as an athlete had played. So ever since the end of the season, I've been training, working out, and doing everything I can to prepare for my final high school football season. The only thing that has been missing from this whole experience so far is being able to be with my teammates, talk to them, get to know them better, and make stronger connections. I miss being able to play football, and for most former players, including my older brother, say that some of the greatest memories come from high school and playing football with all their friends. These are years of my life that I will never be able to get back, and I don't want to miss any of it. Next comment is from Joe Ellett, a coach at PVHS. Dear School Board, as you consider the return to sports through a phased-in process, I would like to ask you to include an athletic trainer from the very beginning. Our athletic trainer performs important functions of injury prevention, recovery, monitoring, hydration, taping athletes, providing ice when minor cuts and minor injuries occur, etc. They are invaluable to the process. Alyssa Maurer has been the trainer at Paloma for a couple years now, and I have seen her help countless athletes. In this time of transitioning from very limited activity and soon beginning to return to play, please provide trainers. Thank you very much for your time and consideration. Next comment is from Jason and Amy Fawn. Attention school board members. This is in reference to the student athletes returning to practice and conditioning. As parents, we feel that all students who are ready to go back to their respective sports to begin conditioning with their teams should be allowed. It is highly important for these athletes to physically be back in shape before the actual season begins. Doing so will minimize the number of injuries these athletes could face. The state has already authorized our county to begin, and other districts surrounding ours have been doing so for 3 weeks. These students have suffered enough with not being able to go to school in the normal setting. Allowing them to get some sort of normalization with their teammates and coaches is the only right thing to do. If a parent is not comfortable with their child participating, then they can choose to stay at home. However, don't make that choice for the ones that want to go back. The concerns for some should not be the decision for all. Everyone should be given a choice. We know and trust that the athletic directors at the high schools have put together a plan where everyone will be safe and follow the state guidelines that have been implemented. These kids have lost 6 months of their childhood. Let them go back to doing what they love. Let them go back to conditioning. The next comment is from Erica Rumsey. As a parent, if we all know we are doing our best to make decisions for the health of our community and our children, both academically and mentally, not only do we need to have the conversations about what our children need, but we need to discuss the greater good of what will benefit most, if not all, of the children. I don't think there's any one answer as what will benefit each and every child, but we can do what we can do for the majority and keep a watchful eye out on the rest. Getting our kids back to school is a big priority. As we are slowly moving in that direction, I do not feel the need to address that at this moment. However, we do have an opportunity to help a portion of our school's population, the student athletes. For some of these kids, the only thing getting them through their day is getting them to attend the online classes is the possibility that they may get back to playing sports. Sports aren't just about kids hanging out together or practicing physical conditioning together. It's working as a team. It's having a sense of belonging to something bigger than oneself. It's the ability to put aside issues that may be plaguing them at home and just be kids. It's not just about the physical health either. The mental boost these kids get by participating in a group is almost immeasurable. Mr. Garcia had plenty of doubts that he expressed at the meeting last week. I believe some of them were put to rest by the emails that were sent last week, i.e. CDC recommendations on COVID-19 was shown to not spread in chlorinated water, so water sports should not present a red flag to him. I know there are other parents that will present answers to some of his concerns as well as myself, so I don't feel I need to go too deeply into each of his at this point, but I would like to address some of them here and as he is open to listening. Mr. Garcia mentioned he had emails from coaches saying they are not comfortable getting back to practice with kids. Obviously, the fear these coaches have should be validated, but all sports across the entire district should not be held back due to the concerns of a few. If a certain sport at a specific school needs to wait to begin practice, then each campus can defer to their director to have those concerns handled. He also mentioned, and I am paraphrasing, letting athletes back makes the statement that sports are more important than academics. And if we can have athletes back to train, why can't we have students back in school? The short answer is that I see it is that athletes are not indoors in groups of 35 or 40. using recirculated air in an environment that does not allow for distancing. These proposed conditioning groups are smaller groups of kids, if not students participating in sports, as per the original proposal. And the original amendment, as proposed by Dr. Freeman, was groups of 10 kids per coach, outdoors with social distancing. Academics are immensely important, and allowing students to gather outside and work on their physical conditioning and social skills is not taking place in place of studying. Academics are having to be performed in this distance learning until we get the teachers to feel safe enough to return to the classroom. So that is still happening. We have all made adjustments so our children are learning. However, we've canceled all sports, all gatherings, all mental health coping tools that we previously had at our disposal. And our high school board, we're not putting forth anything that gives us hope. So school board and school board president, this has 3 more paragraphs on this one.
You can continue. Yeah, I'd like to
All
hear.
right. I got to remember where I left off though. Okay. Mr. Garcia wanted to know if there was to be a nurse on hand for custodians present. Board President Stafford also had concerns regarding the custodians and the cleaning of the restrooms. I believe the directors have already addressed these concerns as related that they had spoken with the janitorial staff and the restroom situation was already handled. Currently, there are no nurses at each of the practices for the kids. However, in each group, there are trained coaches and there are kids that are trained for health, lifeguarding skills. And so a portion of that would not be too different from that of pre-COVID. Finally, both Mr. Garcia and Mr. Nelson made comments to the effect that these kids can just do running and push-ups at home. The only team that is simply running would be cross country, and I guarantee those kids need a mentor to spur them on to correct posture to help avoid sprains or ligament damage. I don't know of any sport that relies on basic PE premises condition. Each sport has its own specific muscle groups, muscle usage, physical aspects that need to be addressed to avoid more serious damage done during sporting play. Parents can only do so much. As to the waiver at the back of the proposal, it was asked what a parent would sign that. Let me tell you, the parents of all these athletes who are suffering, parents who have watched their kids cry actual tears because their reasons for pushing through this pandemic have been callously pushed aside by those in power, parents who know their kids need something more than staying at home locked in a house, staring at a computer for 10 hours a day to fight through this distance learning. Our kids deserve better. They need to be allowed to begin to play sport. They need this time. They need their camaraderie. You have the ability to make this happen. The next comment is from Corey Anderson. Good evening. As we are slowly opening things up with safety, I would like you to understand how crucial it is for you and your fellow board members to allow these high school athletes to start conditioning as a team so that they can prepare for an upcoming season of sports. These kids need sports back for their mental state as well. They are dealing with loneliness and depression being stuck in front of a Chromebook all day, and they need this socialization with their teammates and coaches. It is a stress reliever for them, and for some, this is their only interaction with people. And for those without siblings at home who have working parents, it is an outlet for them. Sports provides them a fulfillment of joy and happiness. I know with certainty that these athletes will sign a waiver, do temperature checks daily, and do whatever it takes to safely get back with their teammates, even if it's only for conditioning. Thank you for your time. Please keep this in mind when voting. So the next one is from Shira Smith. Good afternoon, board members and school board superintendent Bennett and others. After watching the previous school board meeting on September 23rd, 2020, I would like to express my concerns regarding action item 6.1, general functions plan to return to athletic conditioning and workouts. A plan was presented to the PUHSD school board at the meeting on September 23rd. However, the questions that the board was wanting answers were quite petty in my opinion and were not asked in the best interest of our students. Just a reminder in case you've forgotten, these are the students that you as a board should always have in their best interest in mind. The questions truly just appeared to be that the way to delay a future meeting date. You as a board were not even prepared with any of the facts such as what sports start in December as posted by CIF months ago. Let us all remember that on August 3rd, 2020, the California Department of Health published guidelines for sports and extracurricular activities to resume. Student athletes in PUHSD are currently 3 to 4 weeks behind other student athletes in our immediate area when it comes to conditioning and prepping together as a team. Yes, I understand they will need to be placed in pods of 20 or less, but the direction of the health department. However, let us be reminded just to see your coaches and teammates on the same field can do much for the mental health of students. The CIF has scheduled a shorter season to begin in December, and with the procrastination of this board, our athletes may risk the chance of more injuries as they are not being prepared for the participation in their specific sport. I ask, why did our board not have discussions regarding the return to athletic conditioning at 3 meetings followed the August 3rd announcement? Why were there athletic directors within our district not asked to prepare a presentation prior to September 23rd? While other districts had a plan in place ready to roll out their student community on September 1st, 2020, the PUHSD board on October 1st is still discussing and working out the smallest factors to allow our students to return to the field. Our coaches and students want to return to the field and be prepared for the upcoming season. Everyone is aware that our state and county guidelines for our schools are changing every day, and it is the responsibility of the PUHSD Board of Trustees to keep up on these changes that are occurring so rapidly. While other school districts are currently laying out their plans for the safe return to school in the coming months, we are still discussing the how and the when we return to students safely to the athletic playing field outside. The procrastination of the board is not acceptable, and I ask that you start moving in a more efficiently and timely manner, especially when it comes to the decisions that we have entrusted with you through the election process. You ran on the basis of having the best interests of our students always in mind, and your latest actions have not portrayed this. Are you aware of the statistics that more and more young teens are committing suicide and suffering from mental health during the last 6 months? Our students are suffering, and we must start doing what is best interest for them, and the guidelines will allow us to. Our athletic programs and opportunities they provide for high school students are so important. School connectedness through athletic provides our students a lifelong friendships and dynamic opportunities to thrive in our school cultures. For our seniors, the opportunity for them to make memories is quickly fading away. With all of this in mind, I ask you to remember these concerns and facts when making your decisions today. The next comment is from Jennifer Hauser. My name is Jennifer Hauser, and I'm a parent at Paloma Valley High School student athlete. Unfortunately, this is my son Blake's senior year, and so many things have been affected by COVID. He is a good student, takes AP classes, gets good grades, and is the starting quarterback. His dream has been to earn a scholarship to go to play at the college level. We are praying that the CIF's plan to start in December works out and the season is not changed or worse yet, canceled. Besides the scholarship opportunities that he may be missing out on, he is missing the opportunity to play this last year with his friends. He has been playing football with many of them since he was 5 years old, and they have been looking forward to this time, their senior year, the varsity level, homecoming, senior night, and winning league. This is just one story of the thousands of kids in our district. I am writing to ask you to consider how each of these players are affected, and that something as simple as allowing them to start conditioning will make a huge impact on them physically, mentally, and socially. As parents, we want the best for our kids, and I would like to thank you for keeping our safety of our students and athletes at the top priority. If it weren't for COVID, our kids would have been playing conditioning all spring and summer and fall, except for the dead period. Some of these athletes, due to being locked down, have not been doing conditioning on their own. Some due to lack of motivation, other lack of equipment or space, and some just do not know how to do it properly without the guidance of a trained coach. Another issue is that our kids need time to prepare. As we have seen in the NFL, many players have become injured due to the lack of regular conditioning and in a preseason. We need to learn from this, and we need to allow our kids the opportunity to condition and begin preparing their bodies for the season, which is only 2 months away. Finally, I think it would be wise to have an athletic trainer available during all conditioning practices. As I mentioned before, there may be some athletes that have not done any training during the past 6 months, and with that comes the potential for injuries and dehydration. Having trained professionals to deal with these possibilities will allow coaches time to focus on the physical training and safety of their cohort. I understand that this is a big decision for the board, but please have faith in our athletic directors and coaches. They are professionals, and I truly believe that they want what's best for our athletes. I also ask that you listen to parents and athletes. They are living this firsthand, and I ask you to please vote yes and let our kids get back to their teams and start conditioning. The
Joe,
next comment.
Joe, that's 20 minutes. Mr. Stafford, that we reached the 20-minute mark.
Okay, we can stop there. Many of these comments, if not all, have been emailed to each board member. I've heard most of these comments. I won't comment on the emails. Thank you for your comments, but we're going to move on with the meeting.
Okay. Mr. Stafford, next we have a presentation by our athletic directors on the information. So I'd like to introduce Ryan Sharp, athletic director at Paloma Valley High School. Scott Moore, Athletic Director at Heritage High School, and Ken Cohen, Athletic Director at Perris High School. And they have a presentation they'd like to make this evening.
Okay.
Hey, good evening, board. We're all in the same room, so we have a little bit of echo. Sorry.
Have them kill their mic.
I'm going to present the slideshow real quick. Sorry, guys. I actually don't have permission to share right now. Anna, would you mind giving me permission for that?
Mr. Bennett, do you have in the bottom left, do you see a little shield there on the thing that allows you to, or in the settings allows you to have other people share?
Share their screen.
Yeah, allow people to share their screen. Toggle that.
I got it right.
Hold on.
I got it.
It is in the on position.
Oh, I just said.
Yeah, it must be on because Sarah was able to share.
So I have a little pop-up that says can't share screen. Okay, Ken's gonna present for us. We got it.
All right, you got a pinch hitter for you, so he'll take care of it.
There you go. Thanks, guys. All right, so first slide here. This is in the appendix of the document that we gave to the school board. This is the new seasons of sport as proposed by CIF. In it, you'll see how they've divided the 3 seasons into 2. Each sport is listed with the season they're going to be, and those are the start dates. Those are not actually the start dates for like the start of practice. That is CIF's proposal for when competition first starts. Next slide. This slide also is something that is in the packet that we gave you guys. This is part of the phase plan that we have coming in. Is the sports are divided into risk levels of COVID exposure. This work was done by the National Federation of High School Sports in coordination with the CDC, and is simply used as a reference here. It doesn't say who's going to start first or who won't, but rather helps us guide on who is to do what activities when we do resume. In general, low-risk sports are individual sports or sports that have very little physical contact between each other. Medium COVID risk sports would include team sports that often have contact or close proximity between players, but do not really include much in the way of collisions. High-risk sports are those that would have a large amount of bodies that collide as a way that's built into the sport. In lacrosse, for instance, you'll notice that girls lacrosse is in the medium range, but boys is in the high. This is because boys are allowed to check and are equipped with shoulder pads and helmets, while girls are not. So that kind of helps divide those up. So one of the things that I wanted to use this opportunity was to really talk about how this plan works. The plan that we came up with was not a plan to just handle how we are going to do the next 2 weeks, but rather a roadmap that could take us from 0, where we currently are, to competition. At some point before we get to the first game, our teams will need to pick up a volleyball, and our football players might need to be able to hit a sled. They'll need to be able to shoot a water polo ball. This plan allows for that progression to take place in a safe way. These phases are moved through in accordance with county health guidelines, but it offers a way for athletes and our teams to get from where they are now to competition in December for those first sports. Most districts around us are typically using a 2-phase guideline. Other districts' phase 1 most closely resembles our phase 2. We actually added in a third phase when we were designing this plan and put it at the front end as a way to offer some extra precaution as we move through this. So in phase one, every school, if they had unlimited space, technically all sports could resume. The logistical space and who needs to get ready for a December start would have to be determined by the athletic directors at each site. But in general, in phase one, the coach to student ratio is 1 to 10. Everyone's in a pod of 10. Any sport listed in a medium or high risk may only do conditioning workouts. That is running, cardio, body weight exercises like push-ups and sit-ups and core. Low risk sports may resume what would be called modified practice. The modifications for each low risk sport and what they are allowed to do is listed in this plan under phase one. In phase two, we would transition the low risk sports to resuming a regular practice. For sports like cross country and golf, social distancing is already built in to the way that they practice on a normal basis. Medium risk sports, medium COVID risk sports at that point would then move to their modified practice. Again, all those modifications are listed in the document that we provided under the phase two. High risk sports during phase two would still remain in the conditioning phase, purely conditioning. Pods of 10 athletes still. Those pods would be separated. However, one coach could observe two different pods. In practicality, this could look like one coach on a pool deck overseeing two different water polo groups as we're working on treading water. Each group is separated by a lane line. They all have their own areas. Each athlete is 6 feet away. The coach is just monitoring both groups. In phase three, indoor workouts resume. Low and medium risk sports kind of return to normal practice with extra breaks for disinfecting, and high risk sports may start their modified practice. The coach to athlete ratio is now 30 to 1. Social distancing is encouraged. But this is basically pre-competition phase. This would be what we would be doing right before we choose to get ready. You'll notice on each of these phases, we kind of have at the bottom here when Riverside County Public Health authorized. Phase two was authorized back on August 3rd. Phase three it said partially authorized because they have allowed indoor practices to resume, but some of the proximity and equipment usage has not been authorized yet. So I wouldn't say that we're quite at 3 in terms of authorizations yet. We're probably somewhere around 2.5. During phase three was when we'd start to do tryouts. At a certain point, if we're going to have tryouts for the teams before we compete, that would need to take place probably at phase three when we could start using actual balls and some equipment to get a skill check on everybody. And so anyway, this is kind of the roadmap we're looking at, taking us all the way through to competition, which is what this plan covers. Do we have any questions on this slide, or do you want me to keep moving along?
You can keep moving along.
Yep.
Your presentation is different from the actual plan that you gave us that I printed out here.
Correct.
So it's hard to kind of match the two. So go ahead, you just continue.
Okay. Well, you can ask me of those differences. We designed this from the plan, so we'll see where there might have been an error if there was one. I can't.
No, I didn't say it. It's just I thought that you were presenting your plan.
This is the plan that we presented to the board.
This is something not that I haven't printed.
Right, Ryan, he
Oh.
thought you were presenting the plan page.
Got it. I see.
Okay. Oh, that's okay. It's okay.
No, I apologize. I understand the confusion now. This covers a question that we kind of note that the board had last time, why return to athletics. Some of those would be preparation, not only just for injury prevention, although that is a big one. Also competitiveness. We have very competitive programs. I know every year at Paloma Valley, us and many other sites are challenging for a league and CF title. We'd like those kids to try to be as prepared as possible to achieve those goals. And then team building. It's important that you get to know and trust the person that is going to be standing next to you when the helmets get strapped on. This allows for team to build camaraderie, even if at 6-foot distance. Another reason to return would be social and emotional well-being. I think that many people have touched on this already. It brings back purpose and the ability to do things that they love and that they're passionate about. Thirdly, sports would be a non-compulsory activity. This is not something that everyone is required to do. This would be a self-selected group that wants to participate in athletics. And that, I think, leads to the fourth point there, which is a controlled environment. There's no transition from class to class or changing of cohorts. This is a very controlled environment when we're talking about athletics, and the coaches being able to put in pretty strict rules and make sure that all those rules are abided by our athletes. And frankly, if a student does not abide by the rules, then they can simply be removed from the team. The last 2 points kind of go hand in hand. There are scholarship opportunities that many of our athletes have the opportunity to earn. And high school athletics allows for those talented athletes to showcase their abilities to get recruited. And we're able to do it at no cost to the athletes. Currently, in the absence of high school athletics, club sports have happily filled that gap. And they've used this opportunity for athletes to be able to receive coaching and mentoring and competition to lead the exposure of a recruiter for all those students that can afford the exorbitant fees that are charged by these clubs. That's left an equity gap for those student athletes who may not have the means for a club participation fee, but have the talent for a scholarship. It's for these reasons I know that myself and the other ADs and coaching staff would really like to see the opportunity for a phased return to workouts in the safest way we can for the upcoming CIF competition season. I'm going to hand this off to Ken Cohen right now. He's going to talk about the next few slides, which also just contains some clarifications that I know the board had at the last, requested from the last meeting.
Hello, folks. Thank you for allowing me to speak with y'all today about the clarifications of some things. I appreciate all of you being here and taking the time to listen. I'm Coach Cohen, the AD at Perris High School. As you know, we're the only school that has a pool right now, and we're looking forward to all the other district sites getting a pool. That's an awesome addition that we're getting.
Coach.
But as it goes for being able to play or practice in a pool, as it says,
Coach.
CDC has announced that the chlorine is a deterrent to the spread of the virus, and that May 6th, Riverside County released a statement on the use saying that there is no evidence can be spread from human to human through the use of the pools and spas. Just maintaining good common
Mr. Bennett,
sense
you can click on mute if you'd like.
separation should be implemented.
Or Anna does.
Okay. The other part of the pools is that with no evidence, the coaches will be responsible for making sure that they are in their lanes and maintaining the proper position as they are in the pool, staying away from each other. No locker rooms will be used at our pool, and the bathrooms will be locked at the time. So that way we are following all the CDC guidelines that are put forth for the COVID situation that we are in. What?
Coach, sorry to interrupt you. Your screen needed adjusting. The only thing we could see was your mouth. So if you could bring your camera, if you so desire, so we can see your face. I'm sorry for interrupting you.
He needs to mute Mr. Sharp's computer. There's two of him on the screen.
Does anybody have a microphone?
Oh, no, double image.
President Stafford,
Yes.
if I may, in the bottom right, there's 3 bars, three buttons, and you can change the layout if you'd like so that you see it.
Oh, yeah, I know what you mean.
Okay, so if for some reason the screen is not showing up for you and it's small, you can try that too.
Well, it's okay.
Got it.
Are we good now?
Ken, I'm seeing, and the people at home are seeing your screen. So they're seeing that in a large format at home.
You're not presenting the presentation.
Okay, is it all right to present
But
from
it's,
here?
it's not in presentation mode, Ken. It's in your slide deck mode. There you go. Or play from current slides.
Okay,
There.
here's the pools one, as I was saying about the water and maintaining distances. We will be maintaining distances by keeping the lane lines for conditioning purposes. Any questions on the pools? Anybody listening?
Continue on, Ken.
Okay, thank you, sir. All right, cohorts and pods, what we're calling the groups that are going to be together. As you can see here, the NFHS plan has one recommendation, and this plan has been out for several months now. But the PUHSD plan is a little bit easier for our players and coaches to manage and helps us maintain great social distancing for our players and our coaches. We want to make sure that it is emphasized that we are here to protect our kids, but at the same time allow them to be able to get out and learn the sport and compete and get to be able to condition together as a team. With the phase two, as you can see, we are at 20-1, whereas the NFHS is 50-1. So we are actually 30 under, and the pods are always going to be even in outdoor in groups of 10. Like Mr. Sharp had said earlier, we will be using the coaches can then be using the pods of 10 as groups of 2. For as like he said on the pool deck, where coach is teaching kids how to tread water, that he can watch 2 groups at the same time. And as you see in phase 3, we're going no more than 30-1. Whereas it's outside, it says 50-1. Indoors will be as a different rate, which we will maintain as a precaution for the social distancing of our kids. We hope that you appreciate this plan and this adjustment. We think that this will give us the benefit we need to make sure that our children and our students here at Perris High School, Paloma, and Heritage are maintaining good social distancing. Any questions?
No questions from me. Anybody have any questions?
Mr. Garcia had one.
Okay, I'm trying to get my layout here right. It's not.
Yes, sir, Mr. Garcia.
Yes, I was actually writing down as you guys were talking some of the questions, but one question I have right now is I see all the phases you have in place. I don't see any timelines for them. Are we waiting for the county to give us direction to move to phase 2 or 3? Phase 1, obviously, that would be now, but I'm talking about phase 2 where more students are involved, and phase 3.
Riverside County and the NFHS plan allow for flexibility in that due to the fact that there might be some precautions that need to be taken in a greater environment, being like football where they're being close and stuff, and we don't want a kid to be rushed out there and say like, okay, we're going to be in plan phase 1 for 5 days and the kid is not in condition because they haven't done anything since March. So the guideline allows a variation of time for each phase. Usually each phase is anywhere from 10 to 20 days. That's 2 to 4 weeks in a school year. And we are trying to make sure that we are maintaining all distancing during that period of time. It will be up to the schools to monitor the plan to make sure that these kids and these coaches are protected at all times.
Mr. Garcia, in the document, we do say we're following from the Riverside County Health Department to move from phase to phase. Once they give direction to move, we may not move at the rate when they do it, but once they give us the approval to move, then we'll work from where we're at to the next phase.
Thank you, Mr. Bennett, because I was concerned because I've been hearing rumors since last week that not all sites were planning on honoring the plan that they were presenting to us. So I was concerned. And that's one reason why the focal point is getting this plan together the right way so we could be consistent and avoid any liability and make sure our kids, our babies, our most precious of lives are taken care of.
Yes, Mr. Garcia. I totally agree with you, and all the ADs have been met together about this, and we have discussed the plan of each phase, and we want to be on the same page so that there's not that discrepancy you just mentioned about one school saying they're ready to go to the next one. We want to follow the guidelines of the county and make sure that we keep everything safe. The whole purpose of this is just so that we can get our kids back together and start conditioning and enjoying being part of the Perris Union High School District and representing their school in a way that they can show their pride and they can have fun with their teammates and their coaches. You have a question, Mr. Freeman? Sorry. All I got is the PowerPoint up. I can't see.
Mr. Freeman, did you have a question? I saw you waving your hand. You need to,
Sorry, I forgot to turn my mic on. I'd like to say thank you to the athletic directors here. I find this to be a very, very outstanding and comprehensive plan. I have a great deal of trust that it will be followed judiciously with the safety of all in mind. And I think that we should be ready to go.
Okay, just a couple more slides to help everybody understand. This one is the one where we talk about the disinfecting procedures. Every coach is going to be given disinfectant. We have 55-gallon drums on campus for refill. The bathrooms will be designated to be cleaned on a regular cycle and disinfected every day by the custodial staff. Hand sanitizer has already been given to each site so that we can distribute this to the places we need to make sure that there's frequent intervals of using hand sanitizers at the site. All equipment is just going to follow the COVID procedures that we have outlined through the risk management department, where you're supposed to disinfect when you leave the area. So all the coaches will be trained on how to do the disinfectant and make sure that all equipment has been disinfected daily. Any questions on that?
One of the questions on the list, I'm sorry, Mr. Garcia. Mr. Garcia?
Sorry, I had to unmute it.
Okay.
I kind of want to go back a little bit. You mentioned something about the water, and then I heard that their kids have to bring their own water bottles. Can I make a suggestion? And I hope it's not like stepping on toes. I know kids forget their water bottles, and if they're practicing, can we have like a case of water to provide as backups or something? Independent bottles of water, where we could dispose of them, so nothing happens, that they're safe and they're still hydrated.
Yes, sir. I'm sorry that was never mentioned. Every site, we've talked about this as a group of AD, every site will have a case of water out there for that reason, because we do know that, students are forgetful. I have 2 sons, and Lord knows they'd forget their head if it wasn't attached. So we will make sure that there is plenty of water bottles out there and trash cans so that we don't have other people touching it, so that they can throw those away in a safe way. Any other questions?
So the question I had was on a list of questions that I gave Mr. Bennett was about had you consulted with the custodial department, meaning the director, and gone down a checklist of what they're going to do for you to have a safe operation?
As for all the ADs, we have all talked to our different lead custodial staff. I've even talked to Chris Jensen and David about this, and making sure that they're all on board, and making sure that they know that after we get your approval, that we will be setting a timeline when we're going to be starting. We're planning, each AD is planning a certain time period, so the custodians are not having to worry about coming at 9 o'clock to clean up because a coach was that late. We don't plan to stay that late. We plan to make sure that it is beneficial for all stakeholders that are involved in this athletic plan.
Okay.
Tony, I believe Mr. Sharp and Mr. Moore had met with Mr. Fritz also about this.
Okay. I just want to stress or just ask you, Mr. Cohen, do you believe that the restrooms are a high-risk area?
It's part of the plan, and FHS, NFHS says that there should be no facilities like that, but the bathroom that are located for our district and for our sites are not a hazard. I do not think that they are unsafe, especially with the custodial disinfecting every time. Like for instance, on my campus, I plan, with your approval, I plan to bring in porta potties out to the fields where it's not accessible with hand stations available. Each of the bathrooms in the stadium will be open to male and females, so that when each pod's in there, they have access to that. So I do think that they're big enough and safe enough and enough space for us to have social distancing priorities in effect, so that nobody's contracting anything. Yes, sir.
Okay, very good.
Um, the waiver liability slide is up now, and we have, as an AD group, presented this to the people that we need to get approved by Keenan and Associates to cover the necessary liabilities. If you see in the package, you'll see there's been some changes made to these, and that we hope that they fit your guidelines that you think will help keep the district safe. And they've been approved, like it says, and reviewed by the PUHSD legal counsel now.
They were good. The attorney reviewed them, and I agree. Yes.
Okay. Positive test procedures, as you see up on the board, are what we would do to make sure that we are keeping the students safe and the coaches at the same time. When it's a positive alert, we will make sure that that positive athlete will be out of workouts for 10 days. Then we will start contact tracing. The ADs will do the best they can in conjunction and collaboration with the district nurse. We will make sure that we provide extra sanitation for those pods that are in whatever area they're in, to make sure that the disinfectant has done its job to clean up what maybe have been left by the infected athlete. And then we're going to notify, as it says on number 4, all close contacts for the exposure. These are just the same guidelines that are being used and been suggested by the Riverside County Health, and we hope that they will keep our kids safe, as you can see. Any questions?
Any questions, board members?
I have a question really quickly.
Yes.
And it's not necessarily for Mr. Cohen or the other ADs. It's kind of for Mr. Bennett as well. When it comes to transportation, this is going to be an issue where we don't want to have equity issues in the fact that some people can make it to the school on their own, or some people cannot. Do we have transportation program in place for the students to get to school for conditioning and get back home?
No, sir, not at this time, because transportation is these conditions are not mandatory. They're voluntary. Coaches are not going to be allowed to mandate that the student has to be there based on what you're talking about, because we know that there will be athletes that might not be able to make it to that practice due to transportation issues.
Okay, when we get to, do we have something in the works for when we finally get to tryouts and to actual practices and seasons starting? Do we have transportation ideas in the works?
I'm hoping that we will work with Mr. Bennett and making sure that we design something when it gets to that point, because as you saw on the first slide, football is mandated to practice starting December the 14th. And yes, here at Perris High, I have a big need for transportation.
Yeah.
And
that's
totally
what we have
respect
to work on next as we move forward.
Okay, so the answer for right now with phase 1, even going up to phase possibly 3, is that no transportation is going to be provided at this time.
Correct.
Correct.
Okay. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Any other questions?
No questions. No.
Well, in closing, I would like to thank you, and I appreciate the board members' consideration from all the ADs in our district. I think the gentlemen in our pod, the ADs, have done a great job coming up with a plan that we think that will keep our kids safe. And we would just hope that you would vote to let us get back to business right now. Thank you for your time and hope that you have a wonderful night.
Thank you, Mr. Cohen. Thank you very much. And your fellow ADs. Thank you.
So Ken, you're gonna have to close out sharing now. It's done already. Okay.
Yes, sir, I did. Thank you, sir.
So, Mr. Stafford, you had the a motion and a second, and you heard the public comments and the presentation by the board, the athletic director. So now you just move on to your next step.
Next step is for comments by the board members, if any. And we'll just go down our list like we normally do. So we'll start with Trustee Arau.
Thank you, Mr. Stafford. First of all, I'd like to say thank you to the athletic directors and the coaches for the excellent and comprehensive presentation. I also want to thank our students, our parents, and the community members for reaching out to us and sharing your input through emails and social media. I have read all your comments. As you know, last week a plan was presented for board approval. The board identified that the plan did not follow all the recommendations from the state and county departments of public health. Last week's plan allowed for the use of the weight room, and in some paragraphs, it allowed students athletes to share equipment contrary to those guidelines. So I want to say thank you for making those corrections and ensuring the safety of our students. Since our students' health and well-being, it is our top priority. We did not vote on the plan last week and it was tabled. I have read today's new plan and I am glad that now it reflects all the guidelines provided by the Departments of Public Health. Tonight, we are here to vote on the new plan, and I am ready to vote yes, so our students can start conditioning as soon as possible. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Rao. Trustee Garcia.
Yes, Mr. President. Again, I'm going to read what I wrote down during some of the comments of the public, and I'm also going to elaborate a little bit more. But I too want to thank the athletic directors, our coaches, walk-on coaches, our cabinet, and you, Mr. Bennett, and everyone else who was involved that I didn't mention if I'm not giving them not acknowledgement. I understand that it's imperative that we come together with a solid plan, because if we don't have a solid plan, it's dangerous. It's dangerous for the district and it's dangerous for the health and safety of our students. And that's what we're elected to do, address and make tough decisions for our students and for their well-being and our future as well as theirs. So when this came to our attention, we were 2 days into the red zone or red level with the county, and we had limited information. It kind of hurts that there's people, including the media, that sent out misinformation. They miscommunicated with the community, saying we voted no, saying we're absolutely against it, and then the community attacking us. I've personally been on the phone all day, every day until today, addressing people and their concerns, and I've invited people to come talk to me, come question me instead of attacking, ask questions so we could give answers, have a dialogue, because it's important for communication and to get the right information about. I don't want to condemn the media, but I think if they're going to report something, be aware of what's going on in our meetings and communicate with us, at least the superintendent, to make sure, did I hear correctly or did I not hear? And I think that would help out instead of bad publicity. PUHSD does not deserve bad publicity. They deserve the very best. Furthermore, the plan was not a safe plan for the well-being of our kids and staff. Yes, I agree that we should always be supportive and do what's best for our students. I'm sorry, I'm skipping because I jumped around here. when we speak, to the community or raise concerns or questions, it's not that we're uninformed. We also have dialogue with a lot of members of the community as well as students who ask us to voice their concerns through us to you, the rest of the executive board, or excuse me, the cabinet and the rest of the board. And so that's what I think needs to be highlighted. It's not that we're out of touch, it's that we're so in touch, we're asking these questions. And again, some of the questions that I asked was misinterpreted as if we're out of touch. And again, being human, that kind of hurt me because I thought I was doing the right thing. I also want to bring up I don't support misinformation. If I'm wrong, I'll correct myself or I get corrected, and I'm okay with that because I believe we do what's right for the right reasons. I expect the best for PUHSD, and I will always support what is right. I have a philosophy that I live by: what's right is right, and what's wrong is wrong. If it's wrong and we can fix it, we're gonna fix it. So, all that being said, I have a question that might be directed to the athletic directors. If coaches are doing this on a voluntary position, will it be voluntary for our students? Because I've heard that there's unspoken rules that when the coach is there, the kids need to be there, and it's not a choice. And I want to get that clear now because I did hear Mr. Sharp. No, it wasn't Mr. Sharp. The other Mr. Cohen, that he said it was optional, and I want that clarity out there for everybody because I do not want to compromise the health and safety of our students. And then I'm going to bring up the last point. If we're bringing back students for sports, we need to have the conversation about bringing our students back to get education. We're in the business of education. Yes, I love sports. I'm a faithful advocate in watching sports myself, but at the same time, we're here for education to better our students. Thank you. That's all I have to say for now.
Thank you, Trustee Garcia. Trustee Freeman.
Thank you. I am satisfied that all the T's have been crossed and all the I's have been dotted. I believe we have an excellent plan in the process. I believe we have all the appropriate authorizations to do it. So I say let's go on with the condition. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Dr. Freeman. Trustee Nellison.
Thank you, Mr. President. I would just like to say that when we decided to table this and have them make revisions last week, like Mr. Garcia said, we got a lot of hate mail because of the misinformation that was put out there. It was made to seem like we have no interest in sports. Believe me, nobody wants to see sports resume more than me. I love sports. I'm a PE teacher in a different district. I love sports. But that is not the end all be all of what we have to take into account. We have to take into account the health and safety of all the students, of all the employees, anybody who's going to be affected by this, and the plan just wasn't covering everything that we know needs to be covered. So I thank you for giving me all the constructive criticism over the last week. And know that we really want to get back to school as quickly as possible. And this is like the first step in our plan in getting back to school. And it all depends on the numbers for the county, obviously, but this is the first step that we want to take in order to get back to the feeling of normalcy in schools, and that we've been missing over the first 8 weeks of school, 7 weeks of school, something like that. So just know that it is not our intention to stay 100% virtual for the entire year. If we can do anything to facilitate getting back into schools, we're trying to do that. And it depends on a lot of things, not just the fact that we want to get back into schools. And believe me, I know you guys want to get back into schools, but some of that's out of our control right now. So you just have to. I'm just asking you guys to bear with us and allow us to continue running numbers and looking at and how all the data as we go forward, because we will open as quickly and as safely as we are allowed to do so. So I do think that this plan, they fixed a lot of the issues that we had with it last week, and I am in support of this plan as well. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Trustee Nellison. And myself, I can just reiterate a few things. A lot of emails, a lot of opinions, some really nice ones, some not so nice, but I need to hear all your voices. So your voices have been heard. I appreciate that. And we have definitely come up with something, a document that I feel will put us in the right place. We're at the lowest possible level of risk now, and this will get our kids back out as you so request. But please remember now, I got about, well, I'll say 30 emails. We've got close to 10,000 kids, so we know. I don't know exactly what the numbers are that play sports, but we want to get those other activities back into. We want our kids back in for a good education, and we want our kids back. So we were misinterpreted. Watch the media; they'll say things and like as though they talk to you, but they never talk to me. So any quotes there, those things weren't said. So I don't know what the purpose of that is, but we move on. We're a district, we're strong. So I fully support this plan to go back and let these kids get out there and have some fun and condition. And so that'll reduce the injuries. And I have heard all of your concerns. Thank you so much. Okay, with that, I think we have to take a vote, don't we? So, okay. So on 6.1 general functions, plan for return to athletic conditioning and workouts. We'll start on the oral vote with Trustee Rao.
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Trustee Garcia.
Aye.
Trustee Freeman.
Aye.
Trustee Nellison.
Aye.
And myself, Trustee Stafford. Aye. We can vote electronically now. And there you have it. Item 6.1 general functions passes 5 in favor, 0 opposed. Okay, now we'll move on to the next item. And okay, there's my screen. Item 6.2 is curriculum, cost analysis and funding options for advanced placement testing. Do I have a motion to select an option for funding advanced placement testing for the 2020-21 school year? And we'll make, okay,
Second.
Trustee Rao, and who was the second?
I was the second.
Okay, Trustee Nellison. Yep. Okay, at this point, I think we have some presentations. Grant, we have a presentation.
I'm going to turn over to Dr. Newman, and the Ed Services team will lead us through.
Yeah, that's correct. Julie will kind of get the presentation set up for us. There was a request last week to do an AP cost analysis and also explore options for potentially paying for AP tests this school year. And so what we wanted to do was go over a few of the options, and in addition to that, kind of get some historical background in terms of what we've done previously as well. And so as we go to the next slide, actually Julie Zerold, our Director of Curriculum and Instruction, will be joining me for this presentation. So this is kind of historical context of kind of what we've done previously in regards to paying for AP testing. And so if you look at the spring of 2018, that year we spent close to $46,000 for paying for AP testing. In 2019, that number was we paid a little more, $48,000. And then last year, 2020 in the spring, that number is 56, almost $58,000 is what we paid. And so these are the numbers that historically that we have funded in regards to supporting kids and paying for AP tests. And I think Julie will kind of jump in a little bit, kind of walk us through a few additional slides in terms of participation rates, but then also some of the protocols that we have in place to pay for AP testing as well. So I'll hand it over to Julie at this time.
Great. Good evening, everybody. What I'd like to kind of share with you is this is our last year's participation. And as you saw the cost increase of what we were paying over time increase the last 3 years. And that really has a lot to do with the fact that we've continued to increase our growth in our AP programs. And so more kids are taking tests. And so that would be reflective in the amount that have been contributing to AP testing. The slide you see right now is the test taken from 2020, which definitely were different circumstances than we have had in the past with the pandemic and students taking AP tests in a different format. So you'll see that the tests that were signed up, we had about 2,381 students sign up to take tests. The actual test takers were 1,785 students, which was a difference of about almost 600 students in the number of students that signed up to take AP tests and the ones that actually did, which is about close to 77% of the students that originally signed up for the AP tests ended up taking the tests, which we were one of the higher districts in participation for AP testing given the pandemic. But we still see that decrease in the number of students that are signing up for the AP tests and actually taking the tests. And so the difference in looking at what AP did last year, because of the pandemic, students were able to take tests from home using their devices, and there were security measures that were put in place for them to take the AP tests. They did provide refunds last year due to the pandemic. I think the concerns moving forward is now that we're starting the school year off with the pandemic, that the College Board may not provide refunds for students that sign up for tests in October and don't take the tests come the spring. And so the last year was the first year that we did start taking test fees in October. That was a change from the College Board. And so that was the first year we started collecting fees that early. This year, the same goes as far as collecting fees in October. So the window is just opening up in the next week. And then this is just a breakdown when you look at the number of AP classes a student might take. So when you look at right now, we have 690 students taking one test that are on free and reduced lunch, and then 700 students that are non-free and reduced lunch students that are taking one AP exam. So that cost for all of those students taking one AP exam is $103,070. And then you'll see as it progresses down with the number of tests students are taking, the number definitely goes down with the number of students taking 3, 4, 5, and 6 AP classes, with 18 students taking 6 AP classes, which kudos to them. That is a lot of AP tests to prepare for, but the cost of those students taking the AP exams just per student, that would be a huge cost for the students that are taking one AP exam. And we wanted to share what that looks like as a breakdown so you kind of can see the difference in how much students may be paying for AP testing.
Now, this next slide here breaks the cost down by school site. And so you see each of the schools to the left. Then you also see the total cost for full cost test. These are students that are not receiving free or reduced lunch. And so we see what those numbers look like. And the total down at the bottom is 117,000. These are kids who are not receiving free or reduced lunch. And then as you move over to the right, you'll see the total cost for students who are on free and reduced lunch. And if we were to pay for all of those students, the number is 74,000. And those are our students that are socioeconomically disadvantaged. So that number is 74,000. And then if we combine both of those numbers, the total to pay for all AP tests throughout the district is about $192,000. That's what that number would look like if we were to pay for all students in regards to AP testing. And so we just wanted to break this down. We also want to propose some options to the board in regards to what the breakdown looks like. And so really, and then look for the board kind of to give staff members direction in regards to moving forward. And so I believe that concludes our presentation. And then at this time, we'll take any questions that the board may have.
Trustee Stafford.
I'm sorry, I was looking for something. So what we have is on this item is basically an information is that information item?
No, it's an action.
We
It's
were
an action.
sharing options for the board to select from to move forward.
That is.
Yeah.
Okay. No, I don't have any comments yet. someone else. Oh, I'm sorry, Dr. Rao.
Yes, thank you, Trustee Stafford. Dr. Newman, I'm seeing the total cost for all the tests, 192. So there is an increase compared to last year of the three times, right? Last year we can say close to 60,000. So actually more than three times. Does that mean that we have the number of students who are taking the AP test increased three times?
No, that's not what it means. I think our focus last year, and Julie, you can jump in if I kind of missed this in regards to, we focused on our students who were receiving free and reduced lunch. So that's what the focus was last year in terms of who we were paying for.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So that would clarify a slight increase from 60,000 to 74,000, maybe a little bit more number of AP tests that our students are taking together with the fee increase. Okay, now that makes sense. Thank you.
And Dr. Rao, this also takes into consideration that every student that's enrolled in the class is taking the AP exam. So in the previous years, they may have been in the class but not have taken the test, which would be why that total dollar amount is lower.
Okay. So what you're saying is this time, if we have students who are not taking a class, but they decide to take the AP test, they need to apply during this month, and we would pay for them, right? That's the proposal.
No, I think that's what we wanted to hear today from the board in terms of the direction moving forward. This year, this was not necessarily a funded item this year, and so at this particular time, we're really looking for direction from the board.
Okay.
Um,
One question for, I'm sorry.
Go ahead, Dr. Rao.
One question for Ms. Raines, because that is important what Dr. Newman said, right? That we didn't budget, we can say. It was not in our budget for this year. Do we have the funding? Can we afford, right, the $74,000 or the $192,000? I made this proposal during the last board meeting because we identified that we have spent millions of dollars on students, not spent, we have invested, right? Millions of dollars on students who are at risk, right? Academically speaking, and our top performers, the students who were taking AP classes, we were not going to provide any support like last year. That we are in the middle of the pandemic, we have a lot of families that they are facing financial challenges, and if we have students, even though it's a small number, taking 5 or 6 AP classes, we're talking about paying $500 to $600 just to do that, right? To take the classes. And we want to support them. We want them to go to college. We want them to have that credit, right? Once they get the 3 or better on the AP test. Specifically, my question, summarizing it, can we afford, do we have the money to pay the $74,000 or the $192,000?
So Dr. Rao, I'm going to answer this question. You're directing that to me, correct? Oh, sorry, I heard somebody else start talking in the background, and I thought maybe I was misspeaking. So I'm going to answer that question in a manner I do when people ask me, can I afford this? And so I generally have a line that I say, you can have anything you want, you just may not be able to have everything you want. So I think that that's even more important when we are looking at the budget in the environment that we're in now. However, I think that that needs to be carefully balanced with your earlier point about the financial struggles that many of our families also during this environment are facing. And so I really then turn that question, back to the board. I can make anything that you would like fit into the budget. I just can't fit everything into the budget. So it's just a little bit different way of spending it. One more thing I want to say, we do have CARES dollars that we could utilize if that's the direction of the board. If the direction of the board is to fund this item for this school year, that is where I would charge these expenditures, because I think we talked about in a last board meeting, kind of a rule of thumb when we're budgeting or expending dollars, we always want to use the most restricted dollars first. I know you're a high school principal, you fully understand that, Dr. Arau. So I know that was a little bit of a long-winded answer. It wasn't just a yes or a no, but I hope that helps provide some context.
Absolutely, and thank you for answering that. And that was my next question: if the CARES Act funding would qualify to support our students. So that being said, with the information that we have at this time, my proposal, my recommendation of, in this case, since you are asking direction, would be, even though last year we supported financially only the students who did not qualify for, I'm sorry, who qualified for free and reduced lunch, based on the situation that we are facing right now, a lot of parents that they did not qualify for free and reduced lunch last year, they might be able to qualify this year. So they might be facing also those challenges. Therefore, if we have the funding, if we can support all of our students, how I'm saying, 192,000 compared with the millions that we are doing for intervention, right? I think is, and if we can afford it, we can do it. We can use that funding. My proposal would be to move forward and support our students and our families.
Okay. Trustee Garcia had a question also.
Oh, good. You saw me. The only question I have actually, yeah, let me ask anyway. How much would it cost for one student for one test? And then I'm really leaning towards Dr. Arau's proposal. I like it. I want to support it, but I still want to know the dollar amount.
So the dollar amount for a student to take an AP exam, if they don't qualify for free and reduced lunch, it's $95. And if they do qualify for free and reduced lunch, it's $53.
Okay. I have a question. So the CARES money, at some point, can we know, or maybe you've told us already, how much we have in that fund? And don't we have to use it by what, December 30th or something like that? And
Go ahead, Mr. Stafford.
well, I just want to know that this is what that is for. It's a good use for that.
So I'll answer the questions in reverse order. I would agree. It's a good use of those dollars. It's intended to mitigate the impacts of COVID. I personally believe, and the criteria of the funding would agree with Dr. Arau's point in terms of the economic condition and that affecting families right now. You can probably tell I'm not in the office, so I don't have the number directly in front of me, but it's right around $12 million between all of the CARES dollars. And in terms of the expenditure timelines, there's actually 5 different sources that go into that. And so they're all different, but the majority of those funds have to be spent by this December 30th.
Yes.
I think I got all your questions.
Yes. Well, I have one, but I don't want to ask it if I shouldn't right now. So there's 5 different sources. So for you to tell me what's the balance of my checkbook, that's that you couldn't really do right now at the moment. So, okay, that was my question. Do we have any other questions? Okay. So direction, we need some direction on where you want to go, Charles. That is what you're looking for.
We'd actually be doing a vote tonight on it. You would see, we've talked about the 3 different options there. We stay with not paying for any, we pay for the free and reduced lunch, or we pay for all of them. And Dr. Rouse had made the recommendation that we pay for all the testing.
Yes. Go ahead, Grant.
No, that's why I wanted to make sure we were all on the same page with that.
If he's presenting his proposal as a motion, I would second the motion.
Okay, well, that's our,
Dr. Rouse, can you the proposal one more time though?
we actually
Yeah,
have, wait a minute, we already have a motion, which was trustee Rao and trustee Nelson. Is that correct?
So they were making an amendment to their motion to, Dr. Rouse had made the original, is making an amendment to pay for all the AP testing at this point, and Mr. Freeman just seconded that.
At the 100 and,
So we'd take a vote on the amended motion first. If it goes through, then we go to the motion on the second one.
okay. So on the amended motion, we'll take an oral vote. Now, we're not going to electronically vote. We're just going to narrow it down and then vote on the final. Is that correct?
You're going to vote on the first one to determine the 190. The third option was the one that you wanted to go with, paying 192,000, and then you'd go back to your original motion. The original motion, which was that you were going to approve that we pay for AP testing.
Okay. So, with Dr. Rao making the motion, trustee Freeman second, Dr. Rao,
Aye.
trustee Garcia,
Aye.
trustee Freeman,
Aye.
trustee Nelson,
Aye.
myself, trustee Stafford, aye. Now, we'll go back to the original motion,
Yes.
which will approve, just going down to the right of the screen, the grand total cost for all tests at 192,000, or depending on where that comes out.
Right.
Okay. So we'll vote again. Do I have a motion?
You had the motion second.
I have the motion. We'll vote. Trustee Rao,
Aye.
trustee Garcia,
Aye.
trustee Freeman,
Aye.
trustee Nelson,
Aye.
and myself, trustee Stafford, aye. And we can electronically vote. So 6.2 curriculum passes at 5-0. 5-0. Okay. Very good. And that brings us to our vital item. Item 7.1, adjournment. Do I have a motion?
Moved.
Second.
Okay, trustee Arau was the second. Who was that original?
Mr. Nelson.
Mr. Nelson, okay. Okay, we'll vote, oral vote, trustee Arau,
Aye.
trustee Garcia,
Aye.
trustee Freeman,
Aye.
trustee Nelson,
Aye.
myself, trustee Stafford, aye. You can vote now electronically. Okay, let me get to the right place here. It's not taking my vote.
I think it's showing Mr. Garcia. Did you vote? Oh, there it goes. Came through.
My screen jumped from, I don't know.
It passed 5-0, Tony.
Okay, I think it pushed me out. Okay. So item 7.1 for adjournment passes 5-0. Upon roll call being taken 5-0, this meeting is adjourned at 6:07 p.m.